What's going on, gamers? Welcome to my full breakdown of the Cinderbrew Meadery. Now, this was on Mythic 0, and man, was it a struggle. There's a lot to figure out, a lot to organize, a lot to learn, and just a lot of tips that will hopefully save you some time with your teams or whatever, if you guys want to discuss it or whatnot. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so right off the bat, you find yourself in this big open room. You need to kill the mobs, hopefully with, like one group at a time like this. If you're just some big meathead tank and you can take a lot of damage, probably feel free to go out there and just pull everything. But essentially, you don't really need to pull the yellow mobs because once you pull the boss, all the yellow mobs run away. So another thing about this area is the pyromaniacs are the kick that you want to do. We want to focus the pyromaniacs just to kicking their abilities. Now, if you get this dot here, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. The healer can dispel it, but obviously the healer's dispel has a cooldown timer. You know what I'm saying? About 10 seconds or whatever. And they spread that erupting inferno, I guess is what it's called. They spread that stuff fairly often now. This hired muscle guy, you definitely want to make sure you only pull one of these dudes at a time because they have a huge tank buster and it hurts like hell. So yeah, just make sure you kind of pull each one of these guys slowly but surely here, and we'll go ahead and move on to the boss fight. All right, so Brewmaster Aldryr here, more or less at 66%. Well, essentially up till 66%. He just throws piles of beer all over the place. And what we really decided to do here was on this whole back right corner, keep them over there because the brew piles go on the floor and it takes them a while to disappear. And the reason being is you don't want to take them directly in front of the bar because you have to go to the bar to grab beers. You don't want to take them on the left side because your team has to run the beers to the patrons at the tables. So keeping them kind of in this corner is a really good idea. But once he gets to 66%, he's going to start his second phase here. So let's see if we can go ahead and get kind of in that spot so you can see the, honey spots on the ground. So you want to stay out of those. You've got approximately 1 second when they spawn to get the heck out of them, or you will take some pretty substantial damage. Now he's 66%. So he runs to the bar. He gets an invulnerability shield. And now the best strat for this that we found, there's 5 beers that spawn. Actually, I think there might be 6 beers that spawn on the table. Right here on the right, there's a thirsty patron. And this looks like it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. Astro, our healer at the last night, is supposed to grab the closest one and throw it to this guy. Now, while this phase is going on, your team is getting pumped with 500,000 damage like every half second. Like, it's absolutely just hammering people with the Rowdy Yell ability. And the only way to mitigate the Rowdy Yell is to deliver these beers to those patrons as fast as possible to get this phase over. We looked up everything. There's no way to avoid the damage. It is literally just a healer check to keep everybody alive. Pop all your defensives. We popped Rallying Cry right off the bat on this one to give us some more XP or some more HP. Essentially, that's the strat, right? Everybody pick a beer, pick a table, focus on that, get that done, and get this phase over with because it hurts like hell. Now, in the second phase, after you turn these beers in, you more or less have the same situation with the circles on the ground, but now you get like little spinning tornadoes that if you get stuck inside of them, you get stunned for like 8 seconds, which is these white circles here. So now you're having to deal with keeping those out of the way, as well as the little tornadoes, which are kind of like random based on where your tank's placed at. But essentially the tank just wants to keep them, just barely outside of the circles, give enough room for whooping up on them. We got a pretty decent chunk of damage going on here. Essentially, once he gets to 33%, then it'll go into the next phase, and then that's the last time you need to, distribute the beer or whatever. All right, so right here you can see, I'm going to pause this real quick, the whole entire left side's open, and that's what you want. So essentially just pull this guy away as much as you can. Now, so the path to the guy at the bar is open, the path to these 3 tables is open. The only path that's a little bit obscured is the one to the single patron on the right side, and that is another thing too, is he kind of knocks you back. So I had to use my heroic leap right there, which I would much rather use to get to the table, but it also slows you when it knocks you back. So without the Wind Fury totem, but you can see we're taking a ton of damage right now, and I'm popping pots and everything else trying to help the healer out. This is definitely a scenario where you need to keep your pots like at the ready. But there we go, we made it through that phase. Now at this point it's just beat him down until he's dead type thing, and just don't stand and stuff. Other than that, easy peasy. But you move into the hallway here. Now we've got this Inferno dot that your healer needs to be dispelling, but obviously we're getting multiple ones. Just don't stand next to your guy. And this boiling flame here can definitely be interrupted, which I think the boiling flame locks onto the person with the dot. Erupting Inferno. Okay, so there he is flaming again. Either way, that's dispellable. It does a lot of damage, and only other thing in this hallway really to worry about is the hobgoblins. What in the world was that? Oh, I got a new subscriber. Look at that. Be cool like that guy and hit the subscribe button. Sweet. The Careless Hobgoblin really doesn't do a whole lot of anything except for whenever he charges you, you just got to move out of the way, let him run into a wall. We tried to run him all the way down the hallway to see if he didn't, like to see if he just stops at some point. But he in fact does not stop. He just continues to run. And the reason we were trying to run him all the way down the hallway is because he drops these brew drops whenever he hits the wall. And he drops the brew drops also whenever he dies. And once you kill the brew drops, it puts the big circle of beer on the ground that hurts like hell. So you just got to make sure you don't stand in that. And more or less all we're doing here is just fighting our way into this next room where we're going to be fighting the boss IPA. And you want to just clear this entire room because you're going to need the entire thing for space, and you don't want to have any additional mobs because you're already going to be fighting a lot of additional mobs. So just make sure you clear this entire room out. All right, the way the IPA fight goes, there's only really two things that you need to do. Technically, only really one thing that you need to do. And that is he does a spewing sprout stout. There we go. We got it counting down on the screen, and essentially this is just kind of a waterfall of random circles on the ground. About a quarter of those circles, about 25% of those circles is going to spawn a drip, and it does seem kind of random. It doesn't seem like see all these circles. Some of the circles are going to spawn the drop drip dudes, and essentially what you want to do is you want to kill these first. You want to CC them by like with me, it was like Shockwave or Stormbolt, as well as like Demoralizing Shout, which I actually don't even have on my bar, but would have worked great for this. Earth Grab Totems, any sort of anything to slow them. Now, if you're putting damage on the boss, so if these brew drops get to the boss, then he gets like a 20 million absorb shield, which you obviously don't want to happen. So here we managed to kill the drops before they got to him. But if you're continuously putting damage on the boss, from what I kind of took away from this, and you're not fighting the dewdrops will speed up and zoom to him extremely quickly, almost like kind of coming to his rescue. Obviously a good little swirly green thing from the monk there to kind of hold these guys back, and you can see all of our DPS are focusing on burning these things down, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. And it does leave a humongous blob on the ground when you do kill these guys, so you want to try and kill them in a perfect world all at the same time, stacked directly on top of each other. So maybe like Death Knight's grippy arm thing to pull them all into one spot or something. But other than that, that's pretty much all this fight really is don't let the drops touch the boss and just kill the boss. And yeah, honestly, this one only took us like 1 or 2 tries. So you can see there that big old blast of damage. Yes, this whole entire dungeon is a massive healer check for sure. And you can see, just to touch on what I was just talking about the boss taking more damage. The boss is actually pretty low right now, so we decided just to blast him. And watch the dewdrops, what happens when we start just blasting the boss. They enlarge, and they start freaking hauling ass towards them, because they're like, oh, help, 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 help. See? Yeah, if they would have got to him, that would have prolonged that fight a bunch right there. So definitely focus the drops. On the way to the next boss, you're going to get this guy with the BeeZooka. Which is the Wrangler, little dude with the cowboy hat. There's nothing you can do about it, but I thought maybe that was like a soak damage thing, so we had everybody stand on the line to try and split the damage, but that was not the case. It is in fact just a straight line shot to whoever it's aimed on. Just get out of the way of your team, or stand still. If you get it, just stand still and everybody else move away. That's probably the best strat for that. Now, with the worker bees in this area, so the Venture Co. honey harvester guy is really nothing crazy. He just puts like big circle on the ground to move out of. But with the bees, at about 10 to 20% remaining health, the worker bees will start casting Final Sting, which is a huge damage that just locks onto a random person. So you want to save your stuns for those worker bees, like Shockwave, because they're obviously all getting cleaved, so they're pretty low about all the same time. So I would just use Shockwave to stop that that final sting ability because it's uninterruptible. But other than that, we pretty much just make our way over here. Also, the Royal Jelly Purveyor is like a little troll shaman caster, and they're going to cast Honey Volley, which is definitely something you want to kick for that scenario for sure. All right, the next fight, Benk Buzzbee. Now, this guy has so he's constantly casting this like circle AoE honey bit that goes on the ground, and more or less pretty much this brown outside wood part of the floor. You just kind of want to kite him around there to keep the honey out of the middle of the floor. And then he's also going to drop 3 barrels out of the sky periodically, like probably every 15 or 20 seconds. And what happens with those barrels, he drops the barrels from the sky and a bee spawns with that specific barrel. You then have to cleave the bees down. The tank needs to try to pick the bees up. The bees do hit hard as hell, so you want to try and CC them as much as possible with your thunderstorm knockups from your shamans or your shockwave from your warrior or anything at all. You want to keep them CC'd because they do hit like an absolute truck. You can see here our tank is taking some serious damage from these guys. Now, if you kill them over top of the orange puddle, they will just revive back to full health again, and you have to cleave them all over again. But you want to designate 1 DPS. Here it was Phaso was our designated DPS to essentially ride on the bees. You have to aim the bee at the barrels and blow the barrels up. If you do not control and maintain the barrels, then you will constantly have more and more ads that continuously spawn. So you have to make sure that you cleave the bees down, call out where your dead bees are so that Phaso can essentially go get the bee. He's going to hop on it right here, you can see, and he's going to destroy the barrel. So now we can all work on beating the boss up until he spawns, which I believe is called snack time. He spawns in more bees, and then it's just pretty much rinse and repeat at this point. But you just got to kind of keep these marinades off the middle of the floor here. You can see we got more bees up. Get the stun out, blast these things down, and just call them out whenever they're dead. I am kind of 1v1 in this dude right now, which does kind of hurt me a little bit, but not too bad. But yeah, so now we've got the bees out. He's already hopping on the bees to go to destroy the barrels, and yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, the next boss is Brutal, and I kind of know the mechanics of the boss, although we ended up not defeating him because we just kind of ran out of time for the night. But you've got these 4 goblin guys in here, and essentially you want to just like hard focus one, because once you kill one of them, the others will all full heal. So we started with targeting the guy on the left. Now it's probably a good idea to mark and label all of them so you can kind of call out which one you want to fight after the skull's dead here. But yeah, more or less you kill one and they all full heal, and you kill another one and they all full heal, and you just have to kill one at a time, more or less. They don't even do anything too crazy. You just got to cleave them down, or not cleave them down, but focus one down, and then after that the boss spawns. All right, now what this dude does, we've got Goldie Baronbottom here. Essentially what's going to happen is your tank is going to get an ability that's like a giant cannon. The tank wants to use that cannon ability to knock out as many barrels as absolutely possible, while also not aiming the cannon at your teammates. So you want to keep your facing one direction here and your teammates like, you know, in an opposite direction. At this point, this is the first attempt we had, so he kind of aimed it at our entire team there, which did suck. And what this also does is it ignites all the barrels. You want to get rid of as many barrels as possible. And look, we just wiped like crazy right there. But we will get like a red circle dot on us that we as the DPS can also use to blow barrels up. You just have to make sure you dodge the flame waves when they come through. And our next attempt here, we did a little bit better, discussed everything a little bit more, and the tank essentially is supposed to aim the cannon at these barrels behind him, but I don't know why he turned around and aimed them at all those, but that's all right, you know, it is what it is. But here you can see I've got the dot on me. I want to blow these 2 barrels up. I've called out now that lava's coming from this direction, so watch out. I'm at freaking low health, so got a victory rush and pod up. But yeah, you got to dodge every one of the lava barrels, because essentially what happens is once she gets to the phase where she's essentially going to blow all the barrels up, so you don't technically have to blow any barrels up, but you got more control over the fight if you do that. And this is just a healer check too, just blasting everybody. But yeah, essentially that's Cinderbrew Meadery, and it's really difficult. I went in there thinking we were just going to do like a 1 hour like splash, figure things out, and blast through it, but it was a reality check instead. So make sure you guys be careful. Hopefully this video helps some people out because we were struggling. There's not a lot of info out there on it, but y'all be good. Thanks for watching and consider subscribing if you're not. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.